Before we get this show started, let's hear from our sponsor. Angler's Coffee roasts a full range of coffees with one goal in mind, delivering excellent coffee to every single angler. And I'm one of those anglers who loves Angler's Coffee. Great tasting, robust, and good to go. And if you haven't noticed, this is Dave from the Wet Fly Swing podcast. I'm here because I'm good friends with Greg, and we are both supporting a great coffee company, and you should too. Angler's Coffee just released a new subscription program, and you can get 22% off, not just 20% off. We're going the extra distance here. 22% off of this box and all products at anglerscoffee.com. Just use the coupon code FFI20 at checkout to get 22% off of great coffee today. That's anglerscoffee.com.
Hey listeners, what's up? So Greg here. I just want to take a few minutes here just to inform you guys about something that we got coming down the pipe that I wanted to make sure you guys are definitely aware of. And what's really cool is it's our Stillwater course that's taking place at Skacheen Lodge. And that's from June 24th to the 27th. It's 4 days and 3 nights. And if you've ever wanted to learn Stillwater, this is your opportunity to learn Stillwater. We've partnered up with Skacheen Lodge because it's the perfect setting to like learn Stillwater, to master Stillwater, and to really dig in deep on what's going on there. So I mean, they have all the boats, everything is set up. The course in the lodge, they offers the perfect setting. What we find is that it offers everything that's taken care of. So picture this. I mean, you go out, you fish all day, you come back. There's an apres, there's your wine, there's your dinner. You have an amazing breakfast. Your lunch is taken care of. Like everything's taken care of for you in that environment. So all you got to worry about is catching fish, which is pretty easy to do at Skacheen as well. So it's really cool. The lodge, it's high end. Everything's included, like even your drinks, your alcohol is included. The boats, everything. There is no rod fees. There's no boat motor rentals. There's none of that stuff. Again, it's all tossed in as well. So really cool. One of the things that that is as cool as that is, one of the things that I find even cooler at Skacheen Lodge that makes the reason why we wanted to choose this place as a setting as well is, once you do some classwork or on water practice yourself, what we kind of have is an opportunity where they have over 16 lakes that you can fish with you and a partner, or you and a buddy, whatever it is. And I can guarantee you will have that lake to yourself. So offers a ton of variety and ton of options for people that just want to get away and have like a lake to themselves. And I mean, it's really cool. I've been there. I can attest to it. I can fish to it and say that it's phenomenal to have your own body of water. I mean, you just can't get in there any other way unless you have a plane, and not too many people are doing that. So actually no one's doing that. Also, another thing too that I wanted to point out is the course. What the course offers. The course offers, everything we walk through everything from equipment setup to the flies, to the entomology, to the life cycle, to the techniques, a bit of casting, the most efficient way to fly fish for still waters given the situation, as well as surface and subsurface of still waters, as well as fishing techniques, as well as fly tying as well. Because one of the instructors that we have going on is Brandon Dixon from BC Fly Guys, who's an amazing, phenomenal fly tyer, and he's a bit of a local legend in this Stillwater scene, as well as myself. I'll be there as well, and I know many of you guys know my passion and my knowledge of Stillwater and where that comes from and how that'll transpire into the course as well. So it's definitely set up for that, and we wanted to make sure that everything is being delivered in that regard. So again, this is taking place at Skacheen Lodge, June 24th to the 27th. It's a total cost, everything included. I think there might be some taxes. You will need a BC fishing license. That's $1,600 per person for everything included here. I know it's a steal as well. And I also know that there'll be, I don't want to let too much out of the bag here on that. It's a bit of a surprise, but there's a ton of swag coming from many of the brands that we work with, and big names within fly fishing. They've reached out. They wanted to participate in this as well and offer some swag and prizes for some of the many of the participants that are going to be taking part of the course as well. So great opportunity to listen, like to find out more or learn more about this. Just shoot me a message in Instagram at Fly Fishing Insider Podcast, or reach out to the lodge and you can book right with them. And they are taking deposits right now. So if you want to get in on that, make sure you can get a deposit down. And the lodge is Skitchine Lodge. That's SKITCHINE lodge.com. And someone there, I'm sure one of the lovely ladies that do the admin, will be able to help you guys out and point you in the right direction so you can get your deposit down for the Stillwater School taking place this June. So I can't wait. I hope to see many of you guys there. It's going to be a great time. You know what? It's going to be a blast. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait to walk through it. So, but let's get back to the podcast. Here we are. This is a great show as well. You're going to love this show. It's, I know we got lots of good things coming, and this is one of them. So I can't wait. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Hey, Fly Fishing Insiders. What's up? We are here with Justin and Stanton from Togans. They are our show sponsor. Hey, Justin, what's going on for Togans this year? What's new and what's coming down the pipe for us tires?
This year we got a whole new range of dubbing coming out, along with our shadow dubbing, most popular, as well as our prism dubbing. The shadow dubbing is a nice multicolored dubbing, where the prism is a bit more of a reflective type of dubbing.
Stanton, as part of Togans Pro Team Tire, what do you enjoy most about both these dubbings?
With the shadow dubbing, I love the blend, and I love how soft it is. It ties beautifully for leech and damsel patterns, having the two different shades of natural olive colors. And the prism dubbing is fantastic for Euro nymphs, or if you want to put hot spots, like have your nymphs or your leeches really pop, you add in some of that prism dubbing because it really jumps out.
Perfect. And Justin, where can we find these dubbings?
Both of these dubbings are available now on our website at togansflyshop.com. You can find them under the dubbings collection.
Excellent. All right, guys, let's get back to the show. Welcome to the Fly Fishing Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Keenan. This is Season 3 of the Fly Fishing Insider Podcast. In this episode, we aim to bring you the biggest and best stories from those who work and make our fly fishing industry truly great. The Fly Fishing Insider Podcast dives deep into the past, present, and future of all our guests, uncovering their amazing stories and journey. Join us each week as we interview a new podcast guest. Also, if you're new to the show or not yet a subscriber, make sure you hit subscribe after this episode. Welcome to the Fly Fishing Insider Podcast. Today, our guest, Dylan Stewart from Bold Coast Burns. Dylan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Greg. I'm psyched to be here.
Yeah, we are too, of course. Kind of pumped. I know you have a bit of a different background, but you got an amazing little business that I definitely want to highlight to our listeners as well with Bold Coast Burns, and get that out there, and hopefully people can learn a bit more about what you're doing. But like always, I start my show with how did you get into fishing, and you have a different story. So I love it. So tell us how you got into fly fishing, and you know, maybe the things that led you there prior. So let's hear it, Dylan.
Yeah, so I'm from Maine originally, and there's quite a vibrant both fly fishing, saltwater, freshwater. There's a lot going on there, both in the woods and on the ocean. And I grew up rod and reel fishing with my dad. He's a passionate fisherman. And I worked, growing up, my summer jobs, I'd work on charter boats, a lot of which were focused on fly fishing around like Block Island Sound area, Long Island Sound. So it's still in the Northeast. And then I ended up, my real path, I kind of ended up getting into the sport of freediving. And it was a new way to interact with the ocean and the species in it. And that later kind of led me into spearfishing. Definitely very conservation minded spearfishing. We have a lot of really voracious predators that kind of outcompete a lot of the other species in the Northeast. So we target a lot of species like black sea bass and several different species up there. And then kind of have gotten more recently into fly fishing through several different rafting trips that I've done, and some saltwater fly fishing up in the Northeast for striped bass. And yeah, that's pretty much my path. I actually moved from Maine to Evergreen, Colorado this year, and plan to kind of spend some time in each place each year. So
crazy. What brought you out to Colorado?
So I actually moved out to Colorado for about 4 years right after college, and just fell in love with it out here. I love everything about it. The only thing is the lack of an ocean, which is ultimately what kind of pulled me back to the Northeast. And then I was in the Northeast for about 5 years, and the winters kind of wore on me, and the kind of lack of sun for so many months of the year really just kind of pulled me back out here. Aside from fishing, I'm a big mountain biker and skier, and just love the outdoors. So Colorado is just a great place for all of it, really.
Yeah, you bet. I was gonna say it's like a hub for it for sure. So definitely, I want to circle back east. So when you were in Maine and you were doing the free diving and that was no doubt in the Atlantic Ocean, correct?
That was in the Atlantic. Yeah.
And how far down would you go?
So, I mean, I kind of max out around the end of my real comfort zone is like the 80-foot probably range is where I'm comfortable. And that's, hunting fish at that depth. But it's a really, free diving is kind of its own sport. And then if you're into spearfishing, there's a lot of overlap. You need to know how to free dive to spearfish, but a lot of free divers have no interest in spearfishing at all. They can be just completely different sports. But I love every aspect of it. I love the free diving. I love the breath hold training. I love it kind of unlocks your body in some new ways that most people, never really push their body in that way. So it's something totally different.
I mean, Dylan, you're looking at it from an athlete's point of view. I'm looking at it like, holy crap, what's the scariest thing you've ever seen down at 80 feet? I mean, you've got Jesus Christ, man. I mean, I would be petrified. It is one of my fears. And I mean, is it black? Like, is it just black? Like,
well, up in the Northeast, it definitely, we do, our visibility isn't, you see photos of people or video of people diving in the Caribbean and all over the world. And a lot of times you can have, 70 to 80 to even like 150 foot of visibility, depending where you are. And where we're diving in the Northeast, I mean, in Maine specifically, there's a lot of days where I'm diving and I've got like 6 foot of viz. And, we've actually had a lot of, white shark action in this past year, which is a little bit spooky because we don't have the kind of visibility to really prepare for anything,
No.
if something, but then I've been doing it for so long and I'm so comfortable at, being a part of that world. And it is so magical to be able to experience what's going on underwater. Like, I have a lot of friends who are fly fishermen, passionate fly fishermen, have been their whole life. And they're kind of the people who initially, taught me and got me into fly fishing. And I've done the opposite with them, and taken them diving and I can show them, this ledge that maybe they've been casting for stripers on, for years. And I can, show them actually what's happening underwater. And some of these fish, some of the stripers there are like in the 50-pound range, really big fish, and it's just a whole different way to see the ocean and see how fish interact. And
I don't
Just a
know.
different perspective.
I think I could do a live feed on that. I think I could send you down there and just view it on a screen. Like, okay, there, can you just drag my fly over to that ledge perfectly? I mean, man, I just picture like you're out there, you're spearfishing, you got your black bass, or whatever, you know what I mean, and freaking great white just swims by. Like, come on, like that would scare oh my god, I don't know how you're doing it, man. Kudos to that, but I mean, everyone gets their high somehow, and that's just awesome. I mean, like tell us, what was the craziest thing you've ever seen?
Craziest thing I've ever seen was probably, I have seen several sharks, but they don't really, I honestly think there's a lot of things in the ocean that are just as scary, if not scarier. We have these rays in the Northeast called torpedo rays. And I'll never forget, I was diving. They're electric rays. Okay. And I was diving in the Northeast in Rhode Island, and terrible visibility. And I dove down, and I was holding on to the bottom. And with spear, when you're diving and you're either observing or hunting fish, you're trying to become one, especially up there with the visibility support. You're trying to become one with the bottom of the ocean and just become a feature of the bottom, basically. So you're not expending any oxygen. You're just kind of hanging out down there. And I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting for fish to kind of come back in, because they initially spook out, and they'll all kind of move away from you, and then you just sink right down on the bottom and stay there, and they'll start to kind of circle you again. And striped bass are so cool, because they'll come in and they're curious, so they'll form almost like a tornado around you, just a solid wall of fish, and they'll just circle you. So I'm kind of waiting for that to happen, and this torpedo ray, giant ray, comes right over my right shoulder and goes. I mean, and big ones are enough to knock you out. I mean, that, like, the charge frame can really do some damage underwater. And it went right over my shoulder, and it was like it never even acknowledged that I was there. Just kept right on going. But I acknowledged the fact that if it was 2 feet to the left, it could have been a really bad situation. So there's all that's right up there. Definitely is one of the kind of the scariest things, because the power of this animal. It just swam by you, and I just got lucky.
Man.
So yeah, a lot of spooky stuff out there, but ultimately, I struggle with some anxiety in areas of my life, but when I'm underwater, like, it's almost like a meditative.
Does everything, do your senses heighten?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, 100%.
They would have to.
Your body makes all kinds of changes when it's under, like, physiological changes when it's underwater, to adapt to that environment. And we all have it, called the mammalian dive reflex. And,
okay.
Anyway, I could talk about freediving forever, but
cool. Yeah,
it basically just allows your body to adapt to that environment.
All right. Hey, Dylan, my last question on freediving, and that's like, how long what's your record for holding your breath?
So it's kind of all over the place. I mean, underwater, like a 2-minute breath hold would be really good for me. On the, just sitting, like doing a static breath hold, on my couch or something, I've got like 4+ minutes. But it just doesn't translate. I mean, when you're underwater, you're never going to get that kind of bottom time. Especially if you're doing it all day long, up and down and up and down, you don't want to push yourself too hard, unless you've got two really dedicated buddies that can dive the same depth as you and can make you feel really comfortable.
Crazy. Well, now you're fly fishing out in Colorado in trout streams, and you're probably not holding your breath too much out there. So, what walk me through, like, where's your home waters, all that sort of stuff, and are you guys out? You know what I mean? Like, how often are you getting out? Is it you and your buddies, you and your girlfriend? What's going on out there?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty, like, we just got out here, so we have not been in Colorado very long.
Okay.
So honestly, 99% of my fly fishing has been still back in the Northeast, mainly saltwater. We did a trip on the Middle Fork of the Salmon River in Idaho.
Yeah.
I believe last year, and that was a real learning experience for me. It was really cool. I was fortunate enough that two of the people on the trip were fly fishing river guides. So, but they're off the clock and just on the trip because they're friends with some of the people who got the permit for the trip that we were friends with. So I had a lot of really good instruction firsthand, just kind of for the love of the sport on the guide's behalf. And it was just like an eye-opening experience. And definitely want to get more into it. But I most of my fly fishing has been with like heavier fly rods. My father-in-law is a passionate fly fisherman and came to Maine many times when we lived there, and he's kind of also been a mentor as far as fly fishing goes. And then combining my diving experience with his fishing experience, we were able to catch a lot of fish. And so I'll be completely honest. I haven't done a whole lot of fly fishing out here in Colorado yet.
Well, I'm sure you're going to get to experience that as soon as you get some opportunities. And I know you're quite busy because you do have your brand, which is why we're talking here. So talk about what you're doing, because you're doing some amazing stuff with wood, and I just love it. So talk about what got you into doing these burns on this wood.
Yeah, so my background is in graphic design. I went to school for graphic design, and after I got out of school, I was having a hard time wrapping my head around just sitting. I'm a very active person. It's hard for me to sit for really long periods of times. I always, after school, I wanted to kind of figure out a way to use what I'd learned as a graphic design student, but do something completely different. And for a while, it was hard to find that groove. And I was doing a lot of kind of manual jobs. I was working on farms for a while and doing all kinds of stuff and drawing constantly on the side. And my subject matter has always been fish. It's definitely maybe the only subject that I'm passionate about drawing. And I couldn't really figure out how to carve out a space for myself in the art world with it. But I, one year, was given a wood burning pen, and it was kind of like a real cheapo one. And I had I think it was just plywood to start. I was burning on ply and just started playing around with it. I fell in love with it. And then I remember it was around the time when Instagram was becoming kind of like and Facebook were becoming a platform for people to showcase their artwork. And so I did a couple posts and, started to get some traction. It was all with people in the fishing world, it was like, and marine biologists, scuba divers, all different, ways of interacting with fish. And I just had some really good feedback, and that kind of drove me to be like, oh, maybe I have something here. And then I started, one thing that I always wanted when I was drawing fish is, it's really cool to draw, bluefin tuna or a striped bass or a trout or whatever at a really small scale. But I wanted to see fish, I wanted to see my burns, fish to scale. So I wanted to figure out how to do like a life-size, blue marlin or tuna or whatever. And I was like, how could I do that with this tiny little wood burning pen? And it just wasn't feasible. So I went to Home Depot and I got a whole bunch of torches, every butane torch I could find, and kind of started playing with just open flame with the wood. And I was working on like live edge slabs at the time.
Yep.
And then I I quickly realized I need to figure out how to kind of like get sharp edges, you know, because everything just looked blurred. So I started rummaging around the kitchen for metal utensils, and I pretty much raided our whole kitchen for all the spatulas and forks and spoons and different, you know, I could get all different kinds of weird edges and textures with these different metal implements that would kind of shield different portions of the flame. And I kind of compare it almost to like airbrushing, like street art or something. And I just worked a lot with like depth and not super fine detail. You know, it's more like I want people just like a big mural or something. When you take a step back, that's when the magic happens, you know? So I really did exclude, I mean, it was all wood burns for the first probably 3 years of doing it. And then I started kind of going back to my drawing roots and started work. I'm also really passionate about pen and ink. Yeah. So I was doing a lot of kind of pen and ink. So if you look on my website or, you can see that I do, the wood burns. I do a lot of, at this point, it's mostly commissioned wood burns. And then I do my prints, which I actually finished them all digitally now, which is kind of a progression in the last year or so. So now I've got my wood burns, my prints, and then you'll also see just recently I kind of developed a process to create. I have a large format printer in house, and I can do archival prints, and I actually mount them to wood and then finish them with an epoxy resin. So I'm calling those my mounts, and those are just a totally different. They're totally different than my burns, but you're still going to get like a lot of the same kind of qualities that I utilize in my wood burn. So those are kind of like the three, or the three different
facets to the brand for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's talk about the mounts, because I'm speechless. I'm looking at one right now as we're talking, and I'm actually looking at for the audience here. You're holding a striped bass and you're holding a brook trout, and I'm like, it's just freaking mind blowing. So these are on wood. The amount of detail, like how do you do this? Like how, like
I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's so those are, so you see, I mean, you can see my fine art prints on my website as well. And I basically have had to recreate all of those prints because I kind of came back to that scale issue again. And I was like, I'm doing all these prints. I really like the detail I can achieve. But I wanted them life size. I wanted the brook trout to be life size. I wanted all my treasures to be life size.
I get that. Like, who doesn't want a life size wood fish?
Yeah, something about it. It's just more effective if it's like, it just hits you on a different level if it is like that. So, so I basically had to recreate all of my drawings in a much larger resolution and size. I finish most of these honestly on an iPad, and it's become kind of like it's really cool because I kind of have this really ancient technique for my wood burning, and then I have like this really modern technique for my print mounts, and it's just kind of like it allows me to spend some time in the digital world, but then I can take a step back and spend a day just working with these hand tools. And so now I'm making them. I've had to kind of recreate all my files, and now I can make these things big enough. I mean, I'm hoping that in the next couple of years, I'll be able to I'm going to need to like adjust a lot of things with printers. I need to go even bigger, but I'd love to be able to do, huge, like, giant tarpon and giant, bluefin tuna, and just do like some of those really large, wahoo. I want to do like some big pelagic species and stuff too. So, the sky's the limit, but I'm having so much fun with it, and I just love the way the finish on them. It just like it locks them in, and they can be. I think at this point I feel comfortable saying that they're indoor outdoor, and
Well, they're epoxied, right?
they,
So I mean, epoxy.
they're epoxied. Yeah.
I mean, it's only the guarantee of the epoxy, really. But like these things are like, the audience, the listeners, you guys have to check out Dylan's site here. Like it's mind blowing. I don't know. I mean, I'm speechless. I love them. I love how beautiful they look. So, and I love how you've done something. The biggest thing I like is what you've done is you found a niche. Everyone's always trying to find that side hustle that next thing in fly fishing that they can do that, that's entertaining or keeps them good. You actually found a niche that no one's doing. It's kind of like my buddy that does stuff with the license plates, and he does it with wood and fish, Cody Richardson. And I mean, the same thing, but you found a niche. Everyone knows it's your niche now. Like you kind of own this niche. It's just freaking awesome. And you're doing it with the burns and the epoxied prints over a fish. Like, it's so cool. What are some I saw on your Instagram as well? I saw you did a shark. Is that a 2-scale shark that you did?
Yeah. So I did a 17-foot great white shark for a restaurant in Newport, Rhode Island. I think, I don't want to eat my words, but I think it might be the biggest wood burn in the world. I was struggling to find wood burns on that scale, and it was a huge operation. I had my buddy, who's like a really good builder, come help me construct this huge kind of back brace for it so that we could load it in a U-Haul, and then we had to drive from Maine to Newport and install it in this restaurant. And same process, all torch work, and then with the epoxy finish. And the epoxy I use it's like a UV stabilized, a little more expensive than a lot of epoxies, but it really holds up over time. And hopefully the restaurant called Zelda's in Newport will be able to have it for years to come. And yeah, that was the biggest one I've ever done by far.
It's just phenomenal. It totally is. So when you look at something like that, like, is this your full-time job? Like, is this your living that you're doing? Like, you created this niche and now it's become a full-time hustle?
Yeah, I would say I think it's probably been about 3 years now. This has been, I kind of was able to, it was definitely just on the side. When I was working my full-time job before this, and I would just get home from work and hustle, and it's all I wanted to do. So I get home from work, and then I would, just at that time, it was just all wood burning. And then I quickly realized, I would do shows too. So I'd go to like art shows, and then I quickly found that my people are the fish, the fish people. So I started going to fishing expos and boat shows, and basically different kinds of events that kind of revolve around that world. And to this day, I mean, most of I'm really excited to be on this on your podcast, because I do feel like it will, hopefully allow me to connect with some new people out here, because I really don't have a presence out in Colorado yet, or in the West. So I'm really excited about that. But at this point, most of my clients and customers are still back in the Northeast. I find myself shipping back there a lot. But I do feel very fortunate, and I feel fortunate that within this niche, like, people who are passionate about fish and conservation, and it's all they think about,
No, it's like amazing. What are some of your clients? Like, do you get lodges? Do you get restaurants? Do you get like who are buying these big pieces of work? Who are buying the burns and stuff like that? Because I'm looking at your Instagram, you have everything from salmons and king salmons to tarpons to great whites. You know what I mean? Like, there's all over the map. So who is your typical demographic that's utilizing these products?
Yeah, so I do. I mean, most of my commission work is, I don't really like to compare it to, skin mounts or anything, but I do get like a similar client, I would say, a lot of the time, where, somebody went on the trip of a lifetime, and they want to commemorate, their best catch or something that they're really excited about. So I do that. I would say that's probably like half of my business, and then the other half would be like commercial, like restaurant kind of stuff, that restaurant applications. I mean, in the Northeast, there's so many restaurants that are looking to, you know, have something in a specific place. So that's been really cool. And then once you develop a relationship with a restaurant, you know, depending on the town that it's in, other restaurant owners come in, and it's really been word of mouth as much as, you know, the social media and online stuff. But it's a balance for sure.
Crazy. And compared to like a skin mount, like how are relatively like cost, are you within line with that, or are you more money, do you figure, or a bit less money?
I would say if anything a bit less, but very much in line, honestly. And I price pretty similarly. Yeah. So like on commission work, I price by the inch, like the linear inch. So it ends up coming out to about the same. And I've had people honestly compare my work price wise and stuff, like side by side. And people always love to make that comparison. And I kind of just like, you know, it's fine art, and they're just kind of different. Not that skin mounts aren't, because they're absolutely gorgeous, but they're just different disciplines, you know. But that's how I price. And then all my prints and the mounts and everything that I do on my website, you can just buy them on my website. But the commission stuff is priced very similarly.
Okay, cool. Definitely good to know. So, Dylan, where do you you've done so well already. How do you see yourself getting better? Where do you see yourself going with this brand and this business? And you know, as you said, finding your fishy people. Where do you see yourself within the next, 1 year, 5 years, somewhere around there?
Yeah. I mean, I think I really just, most of the techniques that I use, I've really tried to kind of push and develop on my own. So like a lot of the wood burning is very non-traditional, you know, and I only use a wood burning pen, which is kind of the traditional form of wood burning. I only use that for really fine details, like around the eyes and the mouths and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then the rest is all the torch work. So I'd love to like refine, you know, those techniques. And then also I'm really excited about like working with color and then these new mounts and my prints. And I just think that each species of fish has somebody, you know, who's so passionate about that fish. Maybe it's just the fish that's native to like where they live, or maybe it's a fish that they go, you know, fish for in the same place every year and they travel to go there or whatever. So I want to, you know, I noticed that as soon as I finish a new piece in terms of prints and the mounts, all of a sudden it unlocks a whole new community of people. Like I always use the tautog or blackfish we have in the Northeast as an example. It's a really ugly fish, but there is a huge community of people, and that's the fish that they fish for year round. And no one makes any art for those people. You know, there's no art that highlights that fish, and it's one of my favorite fish. So I think like you can always kind of, my goal is to create this collection of fish that just, you can go on my website and you can find like the fish that you've always been connected to, you know, whether that's, you know, brook trout or stripers or, you know, brown trout, whatever that is. So I think I want to keep pushing techniques for sure, but I think my goal is just to keep, there's endless species of fish, you know, around the world. And I just want to keep giving, you know, my take on each fish via my artwork and see how it progresses from there.
I just love your passion on that, man, for sure. I mean, you can tell that, you can hear it in your voice, and you can definitely tell how passionate you are about every species of fish. So, you know, with that passion, you know, obviously comes challenges. What are some challenges that you've encountered along the way to build this brand up to where it is today?
I mean, I think, you know, that the things that you can't see coming are challenging. Like, you know, this year with the pandemic that we've been facing, and it kind of, you know, for years I've kind of figured out what what venues work really well and, for showing my work. And I think this year was challenging because like a lot of everything that was in person got, kind of like wiped out this year, and
down.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt like that, I felt really set up for this year and I was really excited. And luckily, people that did shift people to online. So I still felt very fortunate. I still have, I can, it all is still working really well, but I think there's just challenges like that you don't see coming. And then there's also, you do have to reach your customers. Like there's just so many unbelievably talented artists out there, and it's like, who's going to connect with your work, and sure, I think one of the big challenges is just figuring out the best ways to find those people, and how do you connect with those people? But it's a very personal thing, my art too. So, as long as I can pay my bills and everything works on that end, I think I can keep doing this full time and also do it because I'm passionate about it,
Absolutely. So for sure. Totally agree with that. I do want to ask you, and I'm going to ask you what your goals are going forward for the brand, for you personally with fly fishing and everything like that. But before I do that, I want to just hear a quick ad from our sponsor.
That last part of this amazing podcast is brought to you by Rock Treads. Add aluminum to any boot or shoe and wade like a water buffalo through the gnarliest river you can find. Wade safer, wade harder with Rock Treads.
Hey, Dylan, we're back, buddy. I was just asking you about goals and the direction of where you wanted to go, both, personally with your fly fishing as well as the brand in the next 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of a brand, I'm just so excited to be in a new place. I was really intimidated about moving. As an artist, you have the studio and you have, you think of it in a very like local community way. And I think it's tough to think about, like it was really hard for me to take the plunge and move out here and, will it translate? Will I find those people out here? And, so far I've been really fortunate. And I think, as I kind of can, fly fishing for me is like it's the next thing I really want to get into and I really want to pursue. And I'm so fortunate to have some friends out here and that's their passion. And, I just think it will all kind of move together. I think my art will work with fly fishing as a passion, as a hobby. And I think that community is just so tight knit, so I guess moving forward, I'm just so excited to explore, the rivers out here. And I'm fortunate to kind of have a little stepping stone or a cheat sheet, having friends that, know the spots and are just so eager to get me out there this season. So, yeah, it's just a new place, new frontier for me. So.
Well, we know you're going to do well, and we definitely know you're going to do well whatever you do out in Colorado, especially with the art for sure. We definitely want to wish you guys the best. Before I let you go, what are some last words that you have for the audience? And as well, where can the audience find you guys at? Where can they find Bold Coast Burns, everything like that, and reach out to you if they had any ideas or commission pieces, anything that would be of value for sure that you guys are offering, because we fully endorse. We love what you're doing. I think you're doing such a great job with everything, but I want the audience to learn where you guys are at.
And I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast. It's really exciting for me. I guess if there's anything that I could leave your listeners with, it would just be, and this is not, I'm still figuring things out. I still, screw things up in terms of a business sense and trying to figure out navigating doing the art full time. But I just have so many people who reach out and they're almost like discouraged about trying to do the art, or work towards doing the art full time. And I think you can't take the plunge all at once. You got to kind of just keep doing your whatever job's really working for you, and then do it on the side, and then but don't rule it out. I have so many people in my life that, told me when I was younger that it wasn't, a realistic path. And then I also had people who really encouraged me, and those are the people I remember because they kind of gave me the confidence to go for it. And it's not always easy. I have periods of time where I'm, I feel like I'm not having enough sales or whatever, but it's, there's times of the year where all I'm doing is printing. I'm just trying to build inventory for the really busy season. And it's just, I think that's what's tough mentally about, going this direction for work is it's not always consistent, and I think you just have to eventually become comfortable with that. And, so I just, any artists out there that are, thinking about going that route, just keep pursuing it on one level or another. Just keep the intensity up and keep doing it. And it's your passion. So, I guess that would just be what I would leave. And then, if you do want to check out my work, it's, Instagram, Facebook, my website it's all Bold Coast Burns. And for all you freshwater people, there's going to be more and more freshwater fish coming. And I already have a big collection of saltwater stuff. So
awesome. Well, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what you got next. I know you're going to be sharing it all over Instagram. Hopefully you do a giveaway here shortly so that we can jump in on that. We would love to see a nice big rainbow trout hanging up in our studio as well. So with that said, you know what, Dylan, I want to wish you the best. Listeners, I want to wish you guys as well the best. Make sure you check out Bold Coast Designs. He's doing awesome. Support Dylan. We do. Other than that, guys, I'll see you next week. You've been listening to the Fly Fishing Insider Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, tell us by liking this episode and subscribing to the show. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Fly Fishing Insider Podcast. See you next week.